Hi, my name is Stephen Troinchek, and I'm with HorrOrigins.com. HorrOrigins is a website where you can find articles, reviews, and interviews. We also run our very own film festival and screenplay competition. Today I'm talking with Justin Ross, Marcos Gabriel, and Christopher Alender, the producer, writer, and director, respectively, of The Old Ways. Thank you for being here, guys.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
I just want to get this out of the way that I really enjoyed the film. I checked it out on Netflix, which it looked like it was doing pretty well on the charts there, honestly. I think I saw it in kind of the top, few films. But
Yeah,
to start
thank
things
you.
off, I just wanted to ask about going from writer to producer to director. How did this project start for all of you?
Yeah, we'll start here since you said starting from writer. So appreciate you having us on the show. We're really excited to chat about the old ways with you, with all the HorrOrigins listeners.
Mhm.
So this movie, you know, came from really I wanted to try to do an exorcism story from a different cultural point of view. I'm from a different cultural point of view. I was born in Puerto Rico. My mother had told me some really fascinating stories about brujas and healers from the island, and I was like, man, this is incredible. And it's some of those stories just kind of sit in your head for a while, and you try to figure out what you're going to do with them one day. And yeah, this seemed like a really cool opportunity to kind of not do the things you see in a lot of exorcism or possession stories, or to do them in a fresher and different way. And we just kind of let those instincts guide us through. So I very quickly wrote the first 10 or 20 pages of it and sent it over to my good buddy Chris Allender to say, like, hey man, is this something you'd want to do? Is there something on the page here? And he was down for it. And so we just kept writing it and collaborating it and moving it forward. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I'll stop my part of it.
That's where I got started. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we've been making stuff together for quarter of a century.
Mm.
And so it's kind of there's lots of times where it's just kind of a foregone conclusion, like we're doing this thing, let's do it. And this was kind of one of those times where we were making a we were producing a movie that was a kind of like a true single room um, chamber drama. And it was such a good experience compared to the indie. Not that the other experiences we've had weren't good, but very difficult making independent film on location without a lot of money and resources. And this project was just so, I don't know, just so easy comparatively and beneficial to the production, where we were getting more hours out of the day we were filming, and getting a lot more takes and a lot more time to rehearse and all that stuff. So we were like, let's do that for us. So that's where he kind of started developing this more contained story idea, where we could have hopefully the same type of experience on our first feature. So I was excited from day one, and he'd been talking to me about these kind of stories that his mother had told him about for years, over drinks or whatever. And when he finally cracked the code, it was exciting to get it going. And then I called Justin.
That's
a good handoff.
Clean handoffs.
Yeah, how about that? And I was excited from day one as well. We just finished doing a film with Soapbox Films as well, which is the company that Marcus and Chris have. And they came to me with this project saying, hey, we're going to do this next. And Chris is like, I'm going to direct it. And that sounded amazing. And jumped into the script right away and just, just consumed all of it. It was everything you want a script to be. I mean, someone in my position reads a lot of scripts. It's a occupational hazard. A lot of bad scripts come your way too. And, a lot of people can write a pretty good scare, or they can write a pretty good suspenseful script. And some can even write a smart script that can play well in the budget that you have. But this did all that, and then it also had the power, the heart, all these things that elevated it out of just a typical genre film. So I was hooked instantly, and called him right afterwards. Said, "I want it. I want in. When do we start?" So
And then that brought us to Stephen. And Stephen, if you could tell us your thoughts of getting involved with this movie, wonderful process.
You know,
Did you
I
get
sat
involved?
down a few days ago and pulled up my Netflix queue. But you know,
fascinating.
Chris kind of went into this already a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about how the film really just starts in media res. Like it starts in the center of the story. There's not like there is a first act, but if we're talking about like, you know, your traditional here's how you transition into a storyline, it is like, nope, we're in. I just wanted to talk about like your choice in starting it like that, Marcus and Christopher, and just talk about the in general like how you keep the how you keep that momentum up.
Yeah, Marcus, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was always kind of written that way and intended that way. You know, part of it is the story itself lets us do that because Christina's thrown into a situation that she has no grounding in. She's totally confused with what's happening. People aren't speaking the language to her. So we thought, well, that's a pretty cool way to like just jump into a story and do it. And, you know, that's part of the fun of making independent movies is you get to do weird things that, you know, you won't want to take that risk on certain kind of movies. And, you know, we always like, some people would read the script and be like, oh, that's awesome. I love how it just jumps in and we're doing it. And some people would read it and be like, you can't do that at all. That's the worst idea ever. And the hardest thing for us to figure out really was like, just like you said, Stephen, like, how do you still have all the beats of a first act when you've essentially skipped the first act? So we still knew where our story broke into two. We still knew where our story, you know, like the groundwork, the catalyst, you almost have to have like two catalysts because you have to have the one on screen, but that one's also later than the true catalyst. So it was definitely tricky, but that was the fun of it. And, you know, we just wanted to like, I don't know, make the kind of movie that just hit the ground running. So, and then I talked to my friend Chris.
Yeah, and I think plot and story often get conflated, especially by kind of lay movie watchers, you know. So we didn't have the like, you know, here's you know, at work and at home and at play, like that kind of stuff. But we were trying our best to still have a first act for our character, you know. Who is she? Where did she come from? What does she want? And then as the world starts revealing itself to her, we would start to see what story that her character is going on. So, you know, it's just hard to you kind of sometimes you mix the two up and it's like, well, yeah, we don't have those like she's riding the subway to work and all those things, and she finds a sick dog and she rescues it, and you know, but
keep going.
I think we were trying to hit those, you know, this is all for the sequel. And then but we do have those moments with her and we feather them in throughout the first 30 minutes of the movie. As she is coming up to speed kind of in the same way that we are. So we're trying to do, you know, I don't know, sometimes a lot of first time filmmakers try to like overreach. Maybe we did, but we were hopefully cognizant of what we were trying to accomplish, and we did have some like backdoor stuff for a first act, and we ended up kind of like putting it in pieces throughout, instead of front loading it with just like a thing that's people are just gonna be like, well, when is she gonna go, when's the witch gonna come, you know, because everybody's gonna know that. Like that's I think about that all the time with like Terminator 2 was like my favorite movie ever, and I think it came out the year before I was a freshman in high school, and the whole marketing campaign ruined that movie because the poster said this time he's back for good, and it's like 30 or 40 minutes maybe more before it's revealed that like John Connor's not being hunted by two Terminators. And I've seen the movie with people who didn't know anything about it, and I'm just like so jealous. I'm like, oh my god, what would it be like to think that he was going to kill him in the hallway there? spoilers. But yeah, so we knew
Now
that this
everyone
movie was
knows,
going to have.
Chris.
We knew that our movie
Well
was going to
done.
be
Well
like
done.
about everyone's going to know there was a girl gets captured by a witch. So let's just get to it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did, like Chris said, that we shot some backdoor stuff where it's like, I don't know if we're going to use this, but let's shoot this just in case we need it. We storyboarded sequences. We had our actors record dialogue because we did all our posts during the pandemic. And we tried different things and none of it felt like our movie, you know, and I think it really does speak to just what we were talking about in the beginning of this, which was like, she doesn't know what's going on. Let's not know what's going on too. And let's just see what happens.
Yeah. But she still has, you know, the refusal of the call and the inciting incident.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all these things are there for her. They're just not there. Like,
yeah,
it's not.
I would have liked to see her save a dog, though. That would have been a good.
Yeah, exactly.
Scene.
Yeah.
But we do have, you know, we almost literally have it. Like, she's nice to a chicken, you know. But,
yeah.
You know,
Right.
the cat is the only thing we didn't have in this movie, and if we did, it probably would not have been saved.
Yeah. 0 stars. No cat.
Kill the
stars.
cat.
Most of the animals don't survive.
So Christopher, more specifically on your end, something that I noticed immediately about the film is that it's shot on anamorphic lenses, or mostly anamorphic lenses, which for horror is a pretty deliberate choice. Like, I mean, there are a lot of great horror films shot on anamorphic. You know, John Carpenter, he loved his anamorphic lenses, but for a lot of horror you see these days, it's prime lenses, it's spherical. It's like that, you know, that presence, that space. And I just wanted to ask about what motivated you to shoot anamorphic for this film.
Yeah, a lot of reasons. I mean, one, like, if given a choice, I will always shoot anamorphic just because I love it. But you don't always have a choice. We actually fought pretty hard, though, for this movie. There were a lot of practical reasons to do so. One very important one was our soundstage was pretty small, and we couldn't afford to put ceilings on the set because of fire code stuff. Like, we would have had to have we would have had to pay a fireman to stand there every single day.
Built-in sprinklers too. Yeah, it was going to be really expensive.
Yeah, or we would have, there would be all kinds of, it would have been a nightmare for our budget. So that gave us just, you know, less vertical space to be afraid of showing, you know, the roof of a soundstage and stuff like that. So we even built like little corner pieces to stick. If we were kind of aiming towards a corner, we had like a little like 8x4 triangle that we could throw up there in the ceiling just so you didn't see off the set. But so that was a big one. Also, I find that anamorphic really, when you have a noisy background, like I've found like a lot of like stuff that's filmed in the woods in particular and jungles, it really helps carve out your subject matter without getting too muddy, because the background turns into something quite different really fast. And especially if there's points of light and stuff like that that are kind of trickling through. So we really wanted to create that not only in our jungle footage that we have, where when we were out there we didn't have anything, it was just a camera. So we weren't able to really control anything lighting wise and like that. So the lenses helped a ton there. And then also because we were in a smaller space, it gave us the look of like a longer lens, without we weren't able to get too far away from our characters. So we got that kind of little bit more flattering look. Like, you can get a wide shot, you get the width of a 28, but you get the kind of height of a 35, or it's a 2 times, so maybe a 50 or something like that. So it helped us a lot just with our geography in particular. And then when we started to build in the set that had 20, 30, 40 feet through it, because we had the kind of the crisscrossy bamboo walls and different stuff like that, it would give us hints that there is a big space, but without being able to actually see what it was. So we could still kind of stay in the dark, if you will, like Cristina was. And they look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a movie. It's like, sometimes you'll see a movie, especially indie horror movies, and you're like, oh, this doesn't look like a movie. This is, like, and it's shot with like nice lenses and good cameras. And there's just something like Chris went back and watched like Apocalypse Now and Jungle Movie and things like that. Like, how do you shoot a movie on location, even though we were shooting it on a soundstage? Like, what makes it feel like a movie? Because there's certainly a different look to it. So all of those decisions and all of those choices were all to service like the final frame. And, it takes a lot of like analyzing, like, what makes this not look like a movie? And this looks like a movie. What's the difference?
Yeah. Right.
And we definitely wanted to dirty it up in every way that we could, because we didn't want the feeling of a soundstage. So anytime we could kind of take the digital edge off, whether it be with the lens or with filtration on the lens or diffusion in the air, haze, and sweat. Like we had lots of glycerin that they were sticking on the actors, and just really trying to push this feeling of hot and humid jungle as much as possible. But look at movies out there that are shot in the woods or in the jungle, and you'll see, I think, if it's anamorphic, it looks way better. Otherwise, it just turns into like a sea of leaves that you can't really. It gives it just a lot more three-dimensionality to the image, I think.
So, Justin, producing low-budget horror is obviously a huge task. Producing anything is a huge task. And this film, it turned out really well. I think it's an excellent film, and I just wanted to ask you: do you feel like there's a secret weapon for holding a production like this together?
Well, every budget level has challenges, right? And I think besides the fact that you have to get the thing done, and that's what is the obvious challenge that you have when you don't have a lot of resources. It's what Marcus just said. It's making a movie that doesn't just feel like a low budget movie, but making a movie that feels like a movie. And that comes. It starts with a smart script, and Marcos, being kind of the producer extraordinaire that he is, as well as a great writer, approached this thing kind of strategically and played into the resources that they had with that small stage here at Soapbox, and also kind of wrote something that was organically contained in a way that you don't need any car chases for this to feel like a full movie. You don't need to go out and see more caves. It all kind of satisfies exactly what it needs to do. And once you have that script, the main challenge for a producer is just crewing it up with like high quality individuals and crew members. And the trouble with high quality individuals is that they usually are in high demand. And for something this level of budget, you can't pay them what they're probably being offered for other shows. So you kind of have to compensate with the experience. And I like to think guys like Chris and Marcus and myself who approach the craft in a sort of holistic way and try to create an environment where if someone comes on board one of these passion projects, they know that they're going to be taken care of, they're going to be respected, they're going to have a nice, supportive, safe environment to be able to do their best creative work. And everybody wants a good passion project to jump into and to sink their teeth into, and not just a paycheck. So if you can create a situation, a scenario with the right script and the right leadership where you say, hey, we're going to go do this, we're going to do it right, and we want you to come with us, sometimes you'll be able to kind of punch above your weight with your crew, and they come aboard for the right reasons. So that, and a lot of coffee and promise of pancakes and some rap beers from time to time.
A lot of rap beers.
Justin really is the crew whisperer. So
yeah,
I mean, that's his
amazing
secret weapon. Like there's lots of people who can like negotiate lower prices from vendors, which don't get me wrong, he loves the old Justin pushback, but yeah, he's just great with making people feel like they're respected and appreciated, and that they have a opportunity to flex their muscles a little bit creatively. And That really, he was able to bring a fair amount of new talent into our orbit that we'd never met before from his previous projects, and we've been cultivating our own team of amazing people over the years. And so to just put it together and have like such a positive experience between just the relationships of the crew is kind of invaluable, especially you can't just throw money at problems and make it go away, so
right.
Everybody's got to get along
at this level.
At this level in particular. I'm sure on some bigger jobs people will suffer through every now and then a hard
you
job
wouldn't want that
anyway.
I mean, and then sorry, dogs. The other kind of secret weapon for Justin is really he is the most active hands-on producer on a set. There's certainly different types of producers on film sets and depending on the scale, but Justin really respects the fact that if we're making a movie together, like he's the first one to like help put a wall into place with the set department, or like to handle the leaf blower if it needs to be handled and jump off screen and do art department. Yeah. He surprisingly loves them.
It's strange. I got a few of them.
That's really the other thing. And that's really a great leadership on the set too, for your crew to know like, oh, I'm in the trenches with you. And we all take that same sort of approach. Anyway, that's his other respecting people and loving what they do. He does so well. And then just being right alongside you the whole time is the other thing you got to do, man. Because like Justin said, people are doing this. It's their own passion project too. So you got to respect them and treat them right. Exactly. And then hopefully they'll do it again the next time if we still don't have the money to do it,
So for all of you, I like sets. I like writing and directing and all that type of stuff. And I just wanted to ask about set stories, because I love set stories, because of course sets, being these contained, crazy environments, you're like, oh, some crazy stuff happens. So I just want to ask you all about crazy set stories, really.
Yeah,
on this
a global pandemic broke out in the middle.
This set was born in 2018.
It was literally like 2 days after we wrapped, LA like shut down, and we were in Puerto Rico for the last few days of filming, doing our cave interiors and the jungle stuff, and the cave we were in, like, this was at the time when like it was all over the news, but it wasn't like, it was like 10 cases in Alabama and 5 cases here and whatever. And it made it to Florida. But there was a lot of talk about bats and like, it might've come from a bat. And maybe it still did. I don't know. But that was like a lot of the talk. And we were in this cave with no less than 100,000 bats, I would say, maybe more, like so many bats that we couldn't hear each other speak. And they're like all above us and pooping everywhere. And we're just like, man, one of these bats is going to COVID right in our mouth. It's going to be horrible. But didn't happen. We were fine. But yeah, we had plenty of like set. I mean, the fun one that's like the perfect horror movie one is when we filmed the close-ups, like the inserts, which I try not to do too many inserts, but we needed them for this book. It's pretty important set piece. So we had all these inserts of the book and the drawings and the Postecki's lore and all these things, and we had to get in and get a close-up of it and just have her flipping through all the pages, so we have close-ups of all that stuff so we can edit it together. And I think we spent like 45 minutes filming. I mean, it took forever because we're like, turn it really slow, turn it really fast, point at this thing, flip backwards, flip. I mean, literally 45 minutes. And we, and on these days, everything's on a memory stick, memory card in the camera, and the second AC pulls the memory stick out, and then we were on a stage where our editing was right around the corner. So they take it over to them and they try to offload the footage and get it into the Avid, and they get that chip and it's like corrupted, like it doesn't work at all. Oh god damn it. I mean, it was like we just wasted 45 minutes, which is a big deal on, when you're only doing a handful of days. like, dang it. So we're like, we got to shoot it again after lunch. So we get another chip, put it in the camera, and then we get it down to like 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. And because I knew we kind of learned some stuff the first time. We bang through that, get it done. And then the AC comes back later and is like, dude, that chip is also corrupted.
Different
Like,
chip.
are you kidding me? So this book is haunted. So then we shoot it a third time. I think I got it down to like 10 minutes, shoot everything in 10 minutes. And that one finally worked. But it was like some haunted action, man. You always hear about that stuff. And then later we're doing like interviews for the behind the scenes documentary, and Bridget, the star, is talking about the story that I just told. And in the middle of that, in the middle of Los Angeles, California, where we never have any sort of weather, we had a thunder clap that ruined her interview take talking about the haunted book. And the audio guy's like, hey, can we do that again? There's thunder on it. We're like, what are you talking? We've never, I mean, I lived here for 22 years, 3 years, 23 years. I've heard thunder like 6 times, you know? And so it's
surprised 100%. The audio guy knew what that was.
So I know to all you listeners out there,
and I've got it sitting right over here.
It's definitely, you are now haunted.
Yeah.
Just speaking about this, hearing about this book has brought terrible curses into your life.
Yeah, we were half like distraught and half delighted because we're like, we have one of those like exorcist stories, you know. Nothing else cool happened though.
Nothing else cool?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it depends on how you define set story. Like the story of our set, it's not that interesting. But when we first wrote the script, Chris and I were like, oh, the only way we could envision it was like, we'll build one room because we only had so much money. And then we'll like shoot everything out in that one room, and then we'll paint it, and then we'll shoot it as another room, and then we'll paint that and shoot it as a third room. And so the script was written as these like different rooms down this corridor where Cristina would be led and have those things happen to her. And then our production designer, Bryce
This is
Barron,
just a story about a set.
Yeah, this is the set story, right? This is,
Counts.
and then the set's name was whatever. But our set designer said, hey, let's build the whole thing, which was insane. And he had this little model and he showed it to us. And what was, it was crazy. It changed everything about the story to be able to build the entire set. And like most of the walls aren't really walls. They're just like hanging canvas sacks that look like walls. Like Chris said, we have no ceiling, but we have like a part of a ceiling we would move around whenever we'd need to shoot ceilings. Yeah, and then later on that set found another set and fell in love. And that's the end of our set story.
It was a meet cute between two sets.
It was a meet cute.
Yeah, but he like dumpster dove behind coffee shops to get these burlap sacks and painted them black and hung them from the ceiling, and you put a shelf with a bunch of knickknacks on it in front of it, and nobody notices that you don't have a wall.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Bryce Barron, he's kind of a mad scientist. He would come every other day with like a new truckload full of stuff. I found this out in the wild. Like, whoa, my God, what is that?
And then that was like,
man, be careful.
Absolutely. And we all just had to trust it, because you'd walk on the set and be like, what is this going? Is this a wall? What is this part? You know, like one day everyone was like dyeing these cloths and newspapers and shoving them into this like lattice work frame. Do you remember that? And I was like,
yeah,
what is that? Where will that go? And it was just like hung somewhere. It was like, wow.
That was a lot of work.
But they spent all day just stuffing this like trellis full of rags as a part of the set.
Layers upon layers upon layers.
God,
of
you
stuff.
know what, Stephen, you're right.
Yeah.
Set stories are amazing.
Yeah, they're just crazy. Like everybody getting together and doing some just absolutely crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It was a lot of that. It was like a camp, a weird craft camp.
Yeah.
Right. So, moving on from that one here. So, I like symbols. I like, cinematic storytelling, things going on in films, visual storytelling. It's great stuff. And because I have like the writer, producer, and director here, what I also know about movies is that whenever you first write them and then you shoot them and then you get them actually made, a lot of that stuff is either found or just changed or just goes straight out the window or anything like that. And I just wanted to ask about, different visuals, motifs, or different ideas that maybe were in the script but didn't make it into the
Yeah.
movie, or something that showed up while you guys were shooting and made it into the movie and stuff like that. Because it's just always interesting to see how that creative process really unfurls like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that's kind of just for us, when we're like, this is so cool, nobody's ever going to notice. But we because everybody watches a movie in 90 minutes and we make it in 5 weeks, plus post and all that stuff. But there was some really, I mean, more in the motif, or I guess more in like kind of motif, or maybe you call it like what do you call that? Like a no, like a mo
money, mo
problem. You got it.
Say it 5 times and it'll appear.
Foreshadowing, I guess maybe you call it. We have this Bruja with a white eye, and eventually that pays off in ways coming down the line. And we did little things throughout, like the little doll that she has, like for the modern day version, not the one that's like in the flashbacks. We had the eye pulled out and it's like dangling from a red thread, just as a little bit of like, I mean, it's just for us and now your podcast audience, but if you look at that, it's like a little bit of interesting to me it's interesting foreshadowing. But we also had fun stuff with that, where the snake wrangler showed up one day and was all excited about his awesome black snakes that were going to be super cool. But it was kind of like apprehensive or a little apologetic about something. I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, our best snake, the biggest one that's like the most well-trained, I guess, unfortunately she started molting last night. So her skin's still fine, that part hasn't started to like shed yet, but the first thing that goes is her eyes turn white. So he's like, unfortunately her eyes are white. So I've got 3 other snakes though, if you want to use those, they're great, but they're just a little smaller, and that was exciting. And I was like, dude, that's the best news I could ever hear. Like, I would never suggest that we could find a white-eyed snake for our movie, but yeah, let's go for it. Like put that right on screen. So little things like that, you just got to be ready for them. It's like, cool, jump, let's do it.
Also got super lucky because as we wrote the script, La Boca was this like cave like structure, and Chris like drew a picture on the dry erase board in my office that was like this craggly cave that looked like a mouth with all the like jagged, stalagmites, stalactites. Both.
Tights.
Stalactites.
Stalactites
coming down, and it was like, wow, that is super cool. And at the time it was like, maybe we'll build it, maybe it'll be CG, who knows. And we got super lucky to find like the exact cave that matched the drawing, and it was like unbelievable. Like, holy crap, this is the same visual. And it was great. It's the same visual of like the teeth on the wall and that drawing of the mouth there. It was all kind of built on that same imagery. And we didn't know, I mean, we'd already drawn the symbols on the wall, I think, before we found the cave we were shooting in. So we were kind of tied in visually, like, I hope we find a place that looks like this. And we did. So that was just, that was super lucky, super awesome.
And then, of course, finding all of this stuff, you wouldn't find it without Justin. So, Justin, how did you find the cave?
Well, interestingly enough, so we have 2 other producers on this project, Krista Bornari and David Grove Churchill Visti. And Krista had Borini, yeah. And she had some contacts in various areas, and just started like digging and asking some of her friends to go out and look in some of these areas that we thought might work. And something that a lot of people don't know is that ultimately, when you're kind of shooting at a lower budget, SAG has certain tiers for what you are required to pay actors. And if you take actors outside of the United States or territories, then you have to pay them the highest level for every day that they work, and kind of like a Mission Impossible level. And certainly we couldn't afford that. So it kind of limited where we ultimately focused and scouted. And so that Puerto Rico will work for that. And Krista was able to get boots on the ground down there and actually find these amazing locations and just bring them home. But yeah, they look long and hard. And we're going to also going to find like a village and some other stuff and some other exteriors. And it's a big task that they really nailed.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. The way that like SAG and all those like contract issues kind of really contribute to how the film gets made.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
And like it only matters at our low budget level.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Normally it'd be like, fine, shoot whatever, do whatever. It's just another like it's a rounding error to some budgets. But for us, it's like, holy crap, that means we can't build this.
Yeah.
We can't have a monster.
That means our whole budget goes to cast.
Yeah. And we had actually started filming with the intent of going to Guatemala, which is really close to that part of Mexico that the movie takes place. And so we were basing all of our designs inside on places we had found, because Krista had already gone to Guatemala and scouted all over the place there. And then like halfway through filming, we find out that that's not possible. So we had to reverse course and we got incredibly lucky, I guess, but they just amazing that we were able to make the exteriors match the interiors and all that stuff, because we've been planning on a completely different country, let alone location.
Yeah, that matched so well. That was incredible.
I agree. I mean, and just hearing all of this, it really like, I love hearing all of this type of stuff where it's like, it is so much of just making it up as you go along and hoping that it works. I mean,
that's a lot.
You just gotta plan as much as you can, and when you got to call some audibles, then you've got at least the groundwork is done, and you can pivot. But if you don't, you'll be dead in the water every day. I mean, it happens every day.
And
to me is the fun part. I mean, that's the fun part is like the thinking on your feet. You just can't go in being like, and then we'll think on our feet. Like you gotta plan it out. And then you get these little opportunities to pivot.
Yeah, and
one of the great things. Oh, I was just going to say is getting to have both you guys, Chris and Marcus, on set. Marcus would be there all the time, and at Video Village or whispering in Chris's ear, and they would constantly be rolling with, what's happening and finding opportunities. And if a performance went one way that isn't what they envisioned, they'd kind of embrace it and mine the gold that they see in front of them. So it's Chris, maybe you want to speak a little bit about that. It seems like quite a luxury, and I know often sometimes writers come down on set, but having Marcus there most of the time was just incredible. It seemed to be a huge benefit from where I was.
I mean, we have a shorthand, but also he and I have done so much post together over the years.
That's really it.
So we're kind of like talking about post while we're shooting, and like, oh, how's that going to cut together? Oh, this is like there was a scene that was a couple pages in the script, but it was like 12 minutes, like the take, like this dialogue, like this domino scene. And then we were like, oh my God, like I saw the first take and I was like, we cannot have a 12-minute dialogue scene in our movie. Like this is not going to work. Because it, sometimes if it was like comedy or whatever, we like boom, 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 we like 2-3 minutes, but it's a serious scene and they're putting it all on the table, literally.
A lot of contemplation.
Yeah, so it's like, oh my God. And I couldn't just be like, actors,
act faster.
Everything. Like they learned like a 12-minute monologue or, 2 6-minute monologues. And so I'm just like, just thinking about the edit, like where are the zippers that I can get in and out? What can I change with the way the camera is doing stuff so that it feels smart, intentional? And like, Marcus, what can can I be like editing on the page? Just be like, I think I can get in here and come out here and blah, 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 blah. Like, is that going to work? Because we've both been in the editor's chair and together and side by side and as producers with other editors. And we have a lot of anything. We have the most experience probably with the post process. And being able to lean on that experience and share each other's experience with that on the fly was very helpful from time to time, because you just find, you're just like, this looks like terrible, what are we going to do, or this prop doesn't work, or you never know what's going to just suck when you get there on set. And so instead of just being like, let's fix it in post, it's like, what if this is going to work in post, what do I need to change right now so that it will all cut together and we won't know that we failed miserably on something.
One of my favorite, like there was a day that we had the techno crane and there was the exorcism sequence happening and the blood bags are swaying, like it's like action and everything happens, and then Chris just turned to me and he's like, is this all nonsense? Like, is this something? And I was like, I think it's something. We gotta cut it. It's got to be something. But
because you're watching,
cool
it's like an hour of stuff, and it's like a 2-minute take, but it's like we only need 14 frames. Is that 14 frames? The 14 frames we want, or is this all a waste of time? But you gotta like learn to watch things in 1/48th of a second increments.
Nothing will humble you more on set than when you sit and watch your own footage edit together.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think for most sets, having a writer with that much access would be a nightmare. But, I completely trust Chris and everything, like it doesn't, whatever is written on paper for me is meant to be like the spark that gets Justin excited and Chris excited and the actors excited and the prop department excited and art department, that's really, I just really look at the script as the starting point. And then beyond that, it's like everyone just bringing their craft and doing it. So I would just switch to whatever role was needed at the moment. Sometimes it would be like, hey, what's another line of dialogue? Or is this good? Can we cut that? And then sometimes it would be like, is this going to cut together if we do this? What happens if we don't do this? Do we need this shot? And it was incredibly rewarding. And then super fun to just get in post and know like where a lot of the bodies were buried from the production, so that once we got into post, it was like, okay, I think we know what we have here and what we can build from. And then it's like, that's the real fun, like really making the movie,
right.
Like making the movie is incredibly fun, but then jumping into post and being like, well, what if we just move this entire scene somewhere else?
Yeah.
What if we combine these two scenes? Can we? That's like, you got to just be willing to keep looking at it with fresh eyes. Doing that. Sorry.
So,
go ahead.
No.
Fresh.
So for Marcus, I have to admit, to show some ignorance on like the cultural aspects of what goes into this film. And I just wanted to ask.
We're gonna do the Polish version though. We're gonna love it.
Yeah, I am absolutely. And I just wanted to ask about
about gingerbread cookies.
Is that a Polish thing? Gingerbread cookies?
I've been to Poland.
Everybody's gonna get diabetes. Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's gingerbread, right? Yeah, gingerbread. They invented it.
I just wanted to ask about how you approach the cultural aspects of the film, especially because with horror, there is like that danger of exaggerating things and going a little bit too far on some things.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there is that danger and fear of that. We, if you've seen the movie. We enter this movie at a very different point of view than where we end up in the middle and then where we exit the movie. And we knew if we made our, characters, especially the people who are keeping Cristina captive, if we made them real people, then it would ring true. Like we didn't want to make a movie where you watch it the first time through and you're like, remember they're super evil in the beginning, but then they change. Like if you watch the movie back to back, which I suggest you do multiple times.
Over and over again.
Over and over again. Hopefully their performances and who they are is throughout, like it's your perceptions that have changed and not the people that have changed. So, it started with the whatever nuggets I could get from my own culture and then translating that into Chris will describe it as like an archaeological expedition in some ways, where it's like, okay, where does this story take place? it couldn't, in my mind, it couldn't take place in Puerto Rico, even though we ended up shooting there. And that's where the birthplace, a lot of the ideas, but it was hard for me to visualize on an island that small, feeling that lost in the modern day. It'd be one thing if it was like a period piece or whatever, but saying like, hey, it's currently 2021. It's like, they didn't get that lost. There's a tour bus right next to it. So finding the region of Veracruz and setting our story there meant we could use a lot of the same influences that I grew up with and a lot of interesting cultural influences. And then just, delving into Mayan and Aztec traditions as well. So really just a lot of research, a lot of respecting what we would see, a lot of documentary footage. Vice had some really interesting expeditions into those areas, explorations into those areas, and really just looking at that. And then this is more after the script was written, but being really active listeners. So like one of our producers, as Justin was talking about, Krista, is more familiar with some of those regions. She'd have a lot of notes and a lot of thoughts. We would incorporate those into the script. Our performers, everyone had some sort of touch point or something they could relate to in the story, the character, and the setting. And we would listen to that and embrace it. Sal is an incredible Aztec or Mayan dancer. Sorry. Is it
Aztec
dance group,
which was a surprise. We didn't know until halfway through, and he's like, hey, because we were trying to figure out what he was going to do in this one ritual, because in the script it doesn't get that specific about what he's doing, because he's one of 4 people in the scene, and we'd already kind of come up with this whole thing that he was doing in an earlier scene, and we're like, I don't want to we can't just do the same thing. What can we do? And he's like, oh, I'm in a dance troupe, and I've got all the the gear and the clothing and everything. And like, no, great. That's what, bring it. Let's do it. So everybody, just trying to incorporate as many people into the conversation as we could who had, like he said, points of view or anecdotes, experiences. I've traveled a lot through that region, and everybody on the crew kind of has their own thing, and just being like, okay, does this feel authentic? Is this real? And we're pushing it for sure. I mean, we grew up in Florida and New Orleans and Georgia, and like if I did a thing about getting lost in the woods there, we would push it too. It would be Deliverance or whatever, but it would be like, you take what feels real and then you make it a horror movie.
Yeah. And there's a lot of those, like those influences that the people that were involved in it and what they bring to it. And then like the next level of that, of like Sal introducing us to Martine, who helped us do the music. And he's literally playing these instruments that, I mean, most people have never heard played before. Incredible, like true, authentic instrumentation. And you just have to like stay alert, aware, and welcoming of those ideas, especially when they're not exactly your culture, to go like, okay, great, let's lean into this and teach me something. Because if you're teaching us something, and we've gone through a lot of research and decided the things that we were going to highlight and the things we weren't going to show. And if you're teaching us something, then that's like, we know that's going to be really fascinating on screen for someone else to see as well.
And we found things that, other people had never heard of, because just like you don't research your own past as much as you research something that's new and interesting to you. So it kind of led everybody to doing their own deep dives, and people would show up with like, oh my God, did you know about this? And we would rewrite the script when we found stuff, like we found the death whistle
oh man,
pretty late. I mean, I think we were like in pre-production, or maybe not quite that far, but we were pretty much making a movie, and we found these death whistle on Facebook or somewhere crazy. Like we heard the sound
Noah
of it.
Find that?
Yeah, I think one of our producers, Noah
Smith,
our associate producer.
Yeah, he's great.
And we're like, that's horrifying. Like, we got to rewrite the whole script. We got to find a place to put this.
And it started with like thinking about our composer, Ben Lovett, who was going to be a part of it. So first it was like, oh my God, Ben's got to put this in the score. It's going to be amazing. But then also it's like, wait a second, if we make this an integral part of the story as well, then it'll make our like story and score just like mesh together in incredible ways. So yeah, it was always like, you know, staying open to those new ideas and making it more authentic and more real was, you know, that meant the script never, like, it wasn't really locked until we shot the pages, and then we'd be like, all right, I guess those ones are done.
Yeah. And also just reminding ourselves that like movies are not about places, you know, they're about people. They take place at a place, you know, but a movie about a place is a documentary. So
which this is
this is a 100% true story.
Yeah.
Shot on a GoPro.
I could really feel it.
Anamorphic GoPros.
But yeah, just making sure that the character journey was first, and how do we highlight that the best way possible and through a different lens and make something interesting and new, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. So to end off these interviews, I like to just ask a very simple question to put you guys on the spot a little bit, and just ask, if there's one horror movie you could recommend to our audience, what would it be? Don't even think about it. Top of your head. Go.
The Others. How old's your audience?
Good call.
Go see The Others.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't seen that.
Yep.
That one falls through the cracks sometimes.
You got it?
No, go ahead.
The Mortuary Collection, produced by Justin.
I was about to say
that's not no.
There's a poster behind your head.
I'm gonna say Tales from the Crypt, Demon Night. Similar.
Oh, that's a great one.
Oh, gee.
Demon Night.
Billy
And the
Zane
go get the
so
soundtrack.
Billy Zane, man. William Sadler. It slips a lot of radar. So
go get the
you
soundtrack.
Didn't go with who did the soundtrack?
Remember the sound, not the score, but like the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Soundtrack.
Wasn't that like
Wasn't
or something? It was like,
or am I thinking of Tales from the Hood? One of them had really good music.
I think it was like electro rock, but I can't remember now. I'm surprised you didn't go Bordello of Blood, Justin.
Oh, I love well, Demon Night. I'm more of a Demon Night guy.
You know what? I don't this is your fault, Steven, because I keep looking at the Blu-ray behind you, because it is a fascinatingly wild movie.
That one
Society.
right there. Yeah.
Oh.
Not Schindler's List or
Schindler's List.
I didn't even realize those were next to Society, because I've just been like, oh shit, he's got Society.
Well, they're next to each other on everyone's shelf.
Yeah, everyone's like the three biggies: Schindler's
Society,
Society, Lord of the Rings, and Titanic.
Yeah, Society is just so. Brian Usna. It's like. So, or Screaming Mad George doing the visual effects and stuff, like it's so crazy over the top. But I also do think like you could Jordan Peele that shit and make an incredible shunting. You can make an incredible remake of that movie just because it does. But it's hard to recommend, especially nowadays, because it's so it's got so much gross shit in it. But the visual of the like madness. I mean, look, when you make a movie, you make movies, Steven. We make movies. Like even just like spraying a little bit of gack on the ground is like a 2-hour process of like, we got to wrap this. We got to do, hey, oops, something got over here. Scrub it down. Next take, 45 minutes later. When you see the just pure hedonistic madness of the climax of, and I do mean climax of Society, everyone is covered head to toe, internally and externally, in glycerin. And I'm like, how did they do this? It's insane. So yeah, everybody check out Society. If you haven't already, you're not a horror fan.
I have a signed copy of Return of the Living Dead Part 3 up here as well, because I love Brian Usna and like
That's
Reanimator, and just those are just great stuff.
Reanimator's hard to watch too, though. that is it made me feel so bad recently. I watched it on Shudder again, and I was like, that movie's horrifying. Blood-sucking freaks one should ever see that movie.
I've not
Castle Freak.
That. Yeah.
No one should ever see that movie. All these stupid movies. Anyway, I've just lost a lot of your audience who are like, man, Castle Freak's the greatest. Blood-sucking freaks, my favorite. Well, the freaks, all the freak movies. Freaks.
Todd Browning.
You're gonna get trolled so hard now.
I mean, listen, I've watched them all. They have some merits. It's fun to watch Joe Bob talk about them, but
That's true.
Anyway, Mortuary Collection is my second movie.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming and talking about your movie. I for one, have really appreciated just hearing a lot of the stories behind it and just a lot of your approach to it, because it's been wonderful. I just love talking with people about movies, so it's been great.
Likewise.
Again, to the audience.
It's if you like that stuff, we the Blu-ray's coming out October 12th.
Okay.
12th.
Yeah, 12th.
And it's got 2 hours plus the commentary. So we have like a feature-length documentary behind, like, deleted scenes, storyboards, comparisons, alternate
It's
ending.
got almost the 12 minutes of the domino scene. Not quite.
It's a cut down version. Want to see what it looks like.
That's
right. You want to see what it looks like.
If you want to see the scene that
most anticipated film,
I don't know if I could shoot
domino
scene.
If you were ever told in film school,
sweating throughout, it's a fun game.
If you were ever told in film school that a page of dialogue is a minute on the screen,
you're wrong.
Can prove that wrong so hard. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on there because we're we're pretty no holds barred when it comes to just like giving up the goods. So it's all on there. It's a pretty cool Blu-ray they're putting together over at Dark Star for us. So check that out if you want a little cheap film school
plug. But I just wanted to ask, where we can find the film on social media, where you can find anything about the film or so.
We are at The Old Ways Movie on everything. theoldwaysmovie.com. It's on Twitter and Instagram. I think we have Facebook. It's always that handle though, The Old Ways Movie. So check it out there. There's always some tidbits and behind the scenes photos and stuff like that.
We are currently on HorrOrigins podcast at this very second.
Available on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher Premium.
You get your favorite.
Stitcher Premium.
All right. Well, again, my name's been Stephen Tronichek, and I was with HorrOrigins.com, and HorrOrigins is a website where you can find articles, reviews, and interviews. We also run our very own film festival and screenplay competition. I've been talking with Justin Ross, Marcos Gabriel, and Christopher Alender, and I just want to thank you guys again so much for being on here. It was great talking with you. It's just wonderful. It was just wonderful hearing about the movie and wonderful hearing you guys talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fun, man.
Yeah.